Forces is a pretty enjoyable title in my opinion. I bought it at launch and even got it early, point that I used the Switch's offline mode in order to avoid getting caught. One of my friends ended up passing away and I wanted to create him an avatar in order for him to get one final adventure. I have quite a few problems with the game's story, but the Avatar storyline was much more impactful to me thanks to Infinite threatened to destroy the Avatar's life multiple times. I enjoyed the story itself, but it could have been so much better. As for the gameplay, it's either 2D or simple always with barely any platforming. I like it and it had plenty of eye moments, but it ended up being disappointing and shallow even compared to the storybook games. A fun yet shallow experience. That's how I feel about Sonic Forces. Disappointing perhaps? Apparently it's to the point where fans were traumatized by it. Traumatized.
Doctor, I have a confession for you.
What is it?
I've been traumatized by a video game I didn't like, Bangayo.
Oh, that's all?
Yes, indeed, that is all.
As for my opinion, I absolutely love Frontiers more, but I think that not every game needs to be this big 100 hours experience with so much depth and strategy and blah. So maybe that's why I enjoy Sonic Forces more. But apparently it only had 3 years to develop the engine and only 1 year to make the actual game. God! Executive sucks. Capitalism destroys art. Let's go!
Good job!
Let's first talk about level designs. One aspect of the Sonic Adventure games barely anyone talks about are the simple controls. A to jump, B to use the action button, Y to change the use of the action button, and L and R to change the camera. That is all. That is nothing compared to Colors Unleashed or even Frontiers. The level design and the variety of characters is what saves the Sonic Adventure titles in my opinion. So the controls, while seeming shallow, are exploited to their full potential, translating the philosophy of the classic Sonic titles, one-button control scheme, or Knights, just using 2 buttons. You'd think these games are shallow, but Knights has a huge amount of depth to its score system. That's also what Rubia does, and Rubia involves pointing, so whatever. While the pick up and play controls allows Knights to be just as accessible as any other game. However, what we need to talk about are the low-budget titles, often called shovelware by gamers. These titles are often criticized for their lack of polish and often published by corporations interested in having as many titles as possible rather than caring about their quality. It really sucks as a phenomenon, but indie titles weren't really on consoles, so it was the only way to get your game published on them. However, there were actual low-budget games that simply stuck to a concept and executed it. Most of these titles were and still are mixed with shovelware and indie games. It's like every time an indie game pops up, YouTube comments get mad and scream shovelware. What people, executives included, don't get is that not every title needs to be this huge project. Sometimes it's fun to just screw around and create something smaller. So that's why the PlayStation 1 and 2 and the Wii caught on and had so many games. Also, I low-key love some of these. They base themselves on their simpler concept while making the most of it. A lot of them are localizations based on the 3 publishers' Simple series. A bunch of budget games sold at a budget price. Like Puddle, 18 courses, 3 characters, no unlockable, perfect for $5. I'd say it does not have the same depth as Ribbon King, but the extreme courses are just as insane, but only on a budget. According to a bunch of YouTube comments, some of Ribbon King's devs apparently worked on this one, which makes a surprising amount of sense if that's the case. Don't trust YouTube comments unless they're mine. One of the other titles in this series is Starfighter Sanvein, whose intro just looks like this. Is this even a budget title at this point? The whole interface has this Evangelion feel to it, and I just have no words. This title is an hexagon-based shmup. Yes, I said that. Basically, the board is made up of multiple hexagons, but you need to conquer a few specific ones to get to the boss of the level. The more hexagons you conquer, the more powerful your ship becomes. However, you don't have an HP bar. You have a limited amount of time, which depletes even more when you get hit. The shooting itself is very standard. Alongside the frame rate drop makes the gameplay feel more shallow. I don't mind because I'm too busy being sucked in by the hexagon strategy aspect, planning my next move to even care. The presentation also hypes me up beyond anything I ever expected. Everything here feels so intense, I love it. So selecting each panel feels incredible, to the point where I don't even mind how shallow the shooting is. So while I think the game itself doesn't have much depth, playing it feels like an outstanding experience. You are taking from intense moment to another intense moment. It's great. Another budget PS1 title that I love is RC Helicopter, a simple game consisting of helicopter missions. It's apparently not long, but the art style warms my heart in the same way 90s anime does, simple yet efficient. The one I've played, however, has to be the semi-sequel, Minicopter Adventure Flight, a budget title by Arc System Works.
Oh, so that's me, non-stop, love song, will follow you, wherever you go. I can't wait to catch up before the sun sleeps, not if you're short of breath, I'm the disaster of that.
On the Wii that uses the Wiimote like an helicopter. Gone are the anime portraits, in are some pretty creative missions. The one enemy of real gamers.
Feel the heat, yeah.
Motion controls. The controls might be simple, but it depends on which helicopter you buy. Some of them handle better than others. Admittedly, I still have my problem with quite a few of the more frustrating missions, such as a certain fan that I'm having an hard time dealing with. Other than that, the variety of missions with multiple locations made this simpler title much more fun than I expected it to be. It'll probably keep fans busy for a while. It's not the only simpler game Arc System Works worked on. Blaze Blue, a parody of Blaze based on the Power Stone Arena fighters, is a thing that exists. I love the Power Stone games due to their simplicity. Their arenas are varied with neat fighters. It's a reason why I think the game variety makes up for the lack of depth the title has. We're not even talking about the spot on controls. It's just too bad that Blaze Blue has none of that. Even for a budget game, the arenas are a bit basic, so are the items, so are the characters despite their design just looking cute. It's $5, so what you see is what you get, I suppose. Still, the controls coupled with the hit detection leave a lot to be desired. I know Arc System Works can do a lot better, like Billy and Mandy or One Piece. There once was a man named Gold Roger who was king of the pirates. Something One Piece. Yo, God go, dream it. Don't give it up, Luffy. Dream it. Don't give it up, give it up. I love the One Piece adventure games. I love the shh We'll talk about that later. I love Grand Battle. I love Grand Battle as an arena fighter. The characters are different enough while the amount of content pleases me, just like the simpler controls, which easily makes me want to recommend it to Netflix One Piece fans.
Solo! What's all that noise?
Sanji's lollipop. I want to find out what he's always slurping on.
Sanji's not gonna like that!
The only aspect that you'll need to get used to is the 4Kids voice acting. I kinda enjoy it, unlike a lot of One Piece fans, especially since there's not much censorship in this one, aside from a couple of characters that aren't playable. Meanwhile, every arena feels unique to the point where the experience can be described as chaos. That's another aspect that the Grand Battle players will have to adjust to, even compared to other One Piece fighters. The game wasn't too well received, but its reception is mostly a result of other arena fighters flooding the market, all of them having as much depth as One Piece. Besides, it's not even the most insane One Piece title. Oh no. So, Koei with their new studio Omega Force made an arena fighter called Dynasty Warriors. People liked it, so they made a completely different sequel, where you control a bunch of generals who beat the crap out of many soldiers, taking controls of the keep. It was pretty neat, but critics felt like the gameplay got repetitive. The fact that it sold like hotcakes to the point where we'd get multiple sequels did not help, as well as spin-offs. Hyrule Warriors introduced me to the Warriors titles, although I still think it is basic. Age of Calamity introduced multiple objectives with a solid context, so I had more fun playing this entry. I would describe the story as Zelda but shoujo anime, which I already talked about in this video. One Piece Pirate Warriors has even crazier gameplay. Yes, it has the beat the crap out of soldiers aspect, with Luffy being the main character 90% of the time. The rest of the title is surprisingly varied due to the amount of puzzles you have to solve using Luffy's powers in incredibly creative ways. This is one of those times where I actually like quick time events, especially due to the way they're used here. It's kind of a shame that Pirate Warriors 2 and 3 are more traditional, at least in the newer One Piece titles focused more on the adventure aspects. Too bad I haven't played them, unlike the one with Andy Rock. Oh right, that was on Wii. Back to the Wii. So the thing is that the Wii had a lot of party games. It was probably due to the success of Ubisoft's Rayman Raving Rabbids. But since there were minigame collections, they apparently didn't really count at all. Honestly, there are a lot of these titles I like more than actual real games. Pac-Man Party, for example, has this really cool attack-defense mechanic where castles are your property and cookies are your currency. I found out how much depth the game has when playing with friends, or just watching the side quest video. It's just very slow, although the minigames themselves are simple. But the bosses have way too much health in my opinion. Like, this is a fun game for casual players. You don't have to go overboard. It's just that this was another party game on the Wii, and the critics probably felt burnt out because of that. But out of this very cynical context, Pac-Man Party is better than ever in 2025. I just wish there were mods to make the game go faster. Just that I would have liked more Bamco to make an actual 3D platformer Pac-Man, as it was apparently supposed to be. Yes, I changed outfits just because apparently my phone died while I was recording this. Wii Party was also one other game that was accused of being shallow by critics, but sold well enough worldwide in order to have a fan base, which is somehow more active than ever before. since the Gen Z kids who grew up with it are now grown up. My only gripe with it is the lack of unlockables, but otherwise the modes are so diverse and creative that I really just will come back to it often. The games have surprisingly a lot of strategy. Artoon/Arzest was never really well received, even less by critics. Most of their titles are based on intellectual properties that exist already, but also their original titles just didn't really stand out that much, unfortunately. One of their most shallow titles has to be Fling Smash. You hit blocks, swinging the Wiimote around and just completing stages. That's literally it. It's like one of those mascot platformers that takes a gimmick and uses it to its full potential from the 90s, 2000s, because of course Blinks. I really enjoyed that simplicity because in the 2000s, games had bigger, better idea and had to have multiple sorts of variety. Games were built around grander ideas rather than simpler concepts. So critics can once again freak off because not every game needs to be this grand idea that makes a splash and revolutionizes gaming for all. To me, its shallowness is its strength. Blinks 182 would be proud, Bubsy would be proud. What could possibly go wrong? Much aside from... It launched next to a very big Zelda title, while the Wii didn't have many games in 2011, so seeing a simplistic, gimmicky game on a console that did not have that many was just frustrating, while Reggie refused to publish a bunch of already translated titles in America, so Fling Smash felt frustrating at the time, but in retrospective, I would not have this game any other way. Yes, I had to read the script. Fling Smash deserves better. So does Klonoa. Like, I got the Wii remake along with a discount coupon for Wahoos. Of course I had a coupon for Wahoos. Even the remasters didn't have a coupon for Wahoos. Peak Klonoa moment. For some reason, Bandai Namco decided to make another Wii title called the Munchables. It's a game where evil aliens have stolen the golden sacred waste. So you must eat all of the aliens to the point of digesting them. The concept is stupid. The story is too, but it is so dang fun to play. It's like Katamari Damacy, where the more you eat, the bigger you get. Rinse and repeat using multiple enemy types, level designs, etc. Fun, unless we talk about some of the frame rate drops and sometimes obtuse puzzles. It's rarely frustrating, but since it's a game that sticks to the same gimmick for the entire duration, of course people will scream repetitive. Video games clearly need sneaking/shooting segments all of the day, bro. If you think about it like a real gamer, the Munchables is neat in my opinion. It also reminds me of the Fling Smash philosophy. One last genre that was considered shallow for a while was beat 'em ups. They were loved in the 90s. But their game designs were considered limited by the time they moved on to 3D. Fighting Force was one of the few titles that was well received despite its repetitiveness. Other than that, most beat-em-ups kinda evolve into either Warriors, Yakuza or Devil May Cry, which both had their way to reintroduce new elements to the genre, or just were Final Fight Streetwise or Beat Down, Fist of Vengeance. Kinda neat titles that existed. Crimson Tears is where it's at though. It's a mystery dungeon with randomly generated environments by one of the directors from Tobal No. 1 and The Bouncer. It is a game that exists with some janky controls, cel-shaded characters, and a cool story, from what I remember. This is a very PS2 title, but it is a very cool looking title nonetheless. Probably the Astral Chain of that generation, except Astral Chain was actually received well, not even kinda old shallow / repetitive, unlike Crimson Tears. You know what? One last title before I go. The Dreamcast was not known mostly for its JRPGs. That didn't stop people from making them. So we have the incredible
Seventh Cross
Evolution. That's more fun than watching Dragon Ball Evolution. Playing the PSP game is pretty fun though. So the game asks you to name a creature and it sort of is fascinating. The battle system is both turn-based and real-time, so you have to press A or bring up the menu right away. Well, the evolution system has depth beyond even our human comprehension, like even most guides don't know what's going on. It kind of reminds me of the Digimon World situation actually. 7 Cross Evolution's battle system could be described as basic to the point where I just put on a YouTube video in the background while grinding. The levels themselves also feel very samey, so expect to get lost a lot, fighting the same enemies over and over again. I somehow ended up falling in love with this stupid game by playing it casually just to grind. I ended up having to give up on the title due to an obscure leg mechanic, but honestly, at least look up one of the endings on YouTube, because it gets wild. At first, the game has no story, but then later you'll be surprised to hear some voice acting. And that's all the shallow video games content I have for you right now. Please like and subscribe! And thank you for watching.